Welcome to Historical Leaders Unveiled, where we delve into the lives of the most influential figures in history. Our mission: to bring light to the compelling stories that shaped our world, stories that continue to echo through time. Today we turn our focus to a leader that needs no introduction: Moses, a man whose journey was nothing short of epic. So brace yourself for a thrilling ride through time. Join us as we unravel the captivating story of Moses, a figure whose life has shaped civilizations. The narrative of Moses begins in the heart of ancient Egypt, a land of pyramids and pharaohs, where the Nile River weaves a tale of glory and despair. In a time of oppression, when Hebrew slaves groaned under the weight of Egyptian tyranny, a child was born. Moses, as we'd come to know him, was not just any child. His birth was shrouded in peril and prophecy, a glimmer of hope in a sea of despair. Moses' mother, Jochebed, a Hebrew woman of remarkable faith, gave birth to him in secrecy. The Pharaoh, fearing the growing population of Hebrews, had issued a decree that all newborn Hebrew boys be thrown into the Nile. But Jochebed defied this cruel edict. She hid Moses for 3 months, and when she could no longer conceal him, she set him adrift on the Nile in a waterproof basket, entrusting her child to the mercy of the gods and the river. In a twist of divine providence, the Pharaoh's daughter, bathing in the Nile, discovered the basket. Moved by the baby's cries, she decided to adopt him, unaware that the child was a Hebrew. Moses' sister, Miriam, who had been watching from the reeds, seized the opportunity. She offered the princess, a Hebrew woman who was none other than their mother, to nurse the child. And so, in a palace where Hebrews were considered slaves, Moses grew up as a prince, educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, yet his heritage was not forgotten. The prophecy that led to his survival whispered of a deliverer, a leader who would free the Hebrews from their bondage. Little did anyone know that this Hebrew child, raised as an Egyptian prince, would be the one to challenge the might of Pharaoh and lead his people to freedom. Thus, Moses, a Hebrew by birth, grew up as an Egyptian prince, setting the stage for a life of extraordinary events. A pivotal moment came when Moses witnessed an Egyptian mistreating a Hebrew. In the dusty landscapes of Egypt, Moses, a Hebrew by birth but raised as an Egyptian prince, stumbled upon a scene that would irrevocably alter his life's trajectory. A harsh sun beat down upon a Hebrew laborer, an echo of the oppression that his people endured under the Egyptian yoke. An Egyptian overseer, brutal and unrelenting, was meting out a cruel punishment. Something within Moses stirred. A swell of anger, a surge of protectiveness for his kinsman, a thirst for justice. In a fit of righteous rage, Moses struck the Egyptian overseer. The blow was fatal. Moses had killed a man. In the eerie silence that followed, Moses was consumed by a cold realization. He was a prince of Egypt, but he was also a murderer. Fear crept in, a specter whispering of retribution and death. So Moses did what any man in his position would do. He ran. He fled from the grandeur of Egypt, from the life he knew, from the consequences of his actions. His flight took him to the land of Midian, a place far removed from the opulence of his former life. Here, amidst the stark beauty of the desert, Moses found refuge. He was taken in by the priest of Midian, Jethro, and given a new life as a shepherd. In the tranquility of Midian, Moses had time to reflect. He wrestled with guilt, with fear, with the knowledge of his own capacity for violence. But he also found peace. He found love in Zipporah, Jethro's daughter, and they started a family. Moses, the prince turned fugitive, became Moses, the shepherd and family man. But as he shepherded his flock under the vast expanse of the desert sky, little did he know of the immense task that awaited him, a task that would challenge him, change him, and ultimately define him. Fleeing from his past, Moses found refuge in Midian, unaware of the great mission that lay ahead. A burning bush, a divine voice. The course of Moses' life was about to change dramatically. In the heart of the desert, at the foot of Mount Horeb, Moses stumbles upon a spectacle that defies all reason. A bush ablaze, but not consumed. A phenomenon that would have left many fleeing in fear becomes a turning point in Moses' life. He steps closer, drawn in by the impossibility of the scene. And it is then that he hears it, the voice of God. God speaks to Moses from the heart of the flames. He identifies himself as the God of his fathers, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's a pivotal moment, a divine revelation that roots Moses in his lineage and faith. The voice from the burning bush does not merely reveal God's existence. It also discloses a name, a divine name that had not been known before. I am who I am, God declares, a statement that speaks of his eternality, his self-sufficiency, his unchanging nature. This name, Yahweh, would become a cornerstone for the Israelites, a name to be revered, a name that signifies their covenant with the divine. But this encounter, this revelation, is not an end in itself. It's a call, a commission. God sees the affliction of his people in Egypt, hears their cry, and he will not ignore their suffering. He chooses Moses to be his instrument, his voice to the Pharaoh. It's an enormous task, a daunting responsibility. And yet, despite his initial hesitation, Moses accepts. God equips Moses for his mission, turning his shepherd's staff into a snake and back again, and promising him other signs to convince Pharaoh. Moses is no longer just a shepherd. He is a messenger of God, a leader, a liberator. With a staff in hand and a divine mandate, Moses embarked on a journey back to Egypt, ready to confront Pharaoh. With courage and faith, Moses challenged Pharaoh, leading to the iconic Exodus. In the face of Pharaoh's obstinance, 10 devastating plagues swept across Egypt, each one a testament to God's power and a call for Israel's freedom. Frogs, lice, flies, livestock disease, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, and finally the death of firstborns. Each plague a crescendo of divine retribution until at last Pharaoh relented. Thus began the Exodus, a mass departure of Israelites from Egypt, a journey towards freedom guided by Moses. But their path to liberation was not without peril. As they reached the Red Sea, they found themselves trapped between the advancing Egyptian army and the seemingly impassable waters. But Moses, undeterred, raised his staff, and in an awe-inspiring display of divine intervention, the sea parted. The Israelites passed through the dry seabed, the walls of water standing like sentinels on either side. When the Egyptians pursued, the waters crashed back into place, swallowing Pharaoh's forces, marking a decisive victory for the Israelites. This miraculous escape was but one of many trials on their journey. As they wandered the wilderness of Sinai, their faith wavered, their patience tested. But Moses, the steadfast shepherd, guided his flock, even when they strayed. At Mount Sinai, their journey took a monumental turn. Moses climbed the mountain and received from God the 10 Commandments, the moral and religious code that would form the bedrock of their society. These commandments, engraved on stone tablets, were more than just rules. They were a covenant between God and his people, a promise of their unique relationship. From "You shall have no other gods before me" to "You shall not covet." These commandments shaped the spiritual and social fabric of the Israelite community, transforming them from a band of freed slaves to a nation under God. Moses, a humble shepherd, had now become the deliverer and lawgiver of the Israelites. From a prince to a shepherd, and finally, a prophet. Moses' life was a saga of faith and resilience. His story begins in the royal palace of Egypt, where he was raised as a prince, only to find out later that his true heritage was among the Israelite slaves. This revelation sparked a turning point in his life, leading him to abandon his royal privileges and align himself with his people. His encounter with the divine at the burning bush was a pivotal moment in his life, transforming him from a humble shepherd to a prophet of God. The divine mandate set him on a path of challenging Pharaoh, leading his people out of Egypt and receiving the 10 Commandments, a moral code that has shaped societies for centuries. Moses' life is a testament to the power of faith and the will to stand up for justice, even in the face of insurmountable odds. His journey from the royal palace to the wilderness, and ultimately to Mount Sinai, is a story of courage, determination, and unwavering belief. His story serves as a reminder that no matter where we come from, we all have the potential to change the world around us if only we dare to have faith and stand for what is right. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Moses' life. Don't forget to subscribe to Historical Leaders Unveiled for more intriguing stories from the annals of history.